Did the Dallas Cowboys just make the same mistake twice? Let's really talk about it. So recently, one of the Cowboys' newest acquisitions has become the center of some quiet but very noticeable shade coming from his former team. The player in question? Running back Miles Sanders. And some of the criticism that's now coming out about him, well, it's ringing bells for Cowboys fans because it sounds eerily similar to what we've dealt with before. This isn't just about stats or a guy having a down season. This touches deeper. Culture, locker room presence, attitude. And that's why it caught my attention. Now, before we dive too far into football talk, I want to pause for just a second and say something real. With everything going on in the world right now, the violence, the chaos, the stress, it's times like this that really help us put things in perspective. See, this is why I approach this platform the way I do. This is why I don't try to force some social justice movement onto every little football headline. This is why I keep things light, fun, passionate, but never so serious that we forget that football is supposed to be an escape, a place to enjoy, laugh, connect, and step away from the madness, if even for a moment. So I appreciate y'all who ride with me in that same spirit. Let's enjoy what we can, while we can. All right, now let's get into it. Miles Sanders. He's already turning some heads in Dallas with how he's been performing early on, and I'm genuinely rooting for the guy. But as news came out of Carolina, specifically from an article on a Panther-centric site, it painted a less than flattering picture of his time there. It wasn't just about declining production or an injury. It was more about how he carried himself inside the locker room and how his presence supposedly affected team dynamics. Here's what they said, and I quote, "Miles Sanders was about himself. He was annoyed when his starting spot was taken. He was sent into the shadows. He voiced his frustrations to the media, although he had nobody to blame but himself." That's word for word from their media. Now I don't know about y'all, but to me, that feels like a hit piece. Especially when you consider that the coach he signed under got fired halfway through the season. The system changed. The offense changed. He signed thinking he'd be the guy, and then barely got 40% of the snaps. Honestly, I'd be frustrated too. Let's be real. He signs with one of the worst teams in the NFL thinking he's the lead back. And then not only do they cut his snaps, but they also go ahead and draft more backs early. That's not just frustrating, that's disrespectful. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and defend Miles Sanders here. As long as he's wearing that star on his helmet, he's one of ours, and I got his back. Period. But let's go deeper. The report also included a quote from Chuba Hubbard, who basically said the running back room feels more positive, more connected, now that Sanders is gone. He said, "Just the way we're practicing, the way we trust each other, the way we're communicating, it's starting to show." Usually, in the running back room, sometimes it could be a little off. But everyone's cool in our room now. And that's a blessing. I don't take that for granted. That was subtle, but very clearly a dig. What's interesting is that this new storyline now puts the spotlight on Dallas's locker room culture. Especially because one of Brian Schottenheimer's biggest priorities this season is creating a tight-knit, family-like culture. One team, one mission, no egos, no me-first attitudes. And if the stuff coming out of Carolina is true, if Miles Sanders was seen as a divisive presence, then how he adapts here in Dallas is going to say a lot. It brings up a few important questions, like, are the Cowboys truly a team that can absorb a player like Sanders and elevate him within a healthier structure? Are we the type of team that brings in troubled or misunderstood players and helps them thrive? Or are we still vulnerable to letting one guy mess with the chemistry if things don't go his way? If Miles Sanders doesn't get the ARB1 spot, or if his touches start to decrease mid-season, how will he respond? Will he stay focused? Will he buy in? Or will we start to see the same frustration surface again? That's the subplot I'm most interested in watching unfold. If things go sideways, that could mean our culture isn't as strong as we think. But if Miles comes in, locks in, performs, supports his teammates, and embraces his role, even if it's not always as the lead back, that tells us something powerful about this Cowboys team. It tells us that we have a culture that can actually rehabilitate or elevate players who've had rough stints elsewhere. It means we're doing something right. See, this is one of those moments where we either confirm the foundation we're building or we expose some cracks. Either way, we'll learn something about who we are as a franchise. Now, me, personally, I'm leaning toward this being an organization problem, not a Miles Sanders problem. I think Carolina dropped the ball. I think Philly used him right. And I believe Dallas can bring out the best in him again. I think Miles Sanders is going to surprise some people this season. I think we're going to see a version of him that looks a lot more like that Eagles version than the one we saw with the Panthers. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a hopeful, loyal, ride-or-die Cowboys fan. They calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me if I'm still them. And listen, yeah, I'm still them boys. Loud and proud. And while we're being honest, this isn't just about Miles Sanders. This is about a pattern we've seen with the Cowboys before, bringing in guys who either had a questionable exit from their last team or whose reputation was bruised by how the media shaped their story. We've seen this play out with a handful of players in the past. Sometimes it works out guys come in hungry, chip on their shoulder, and grind. Other times, not so much. But here's where it gets real. The difference between those two outcomes is usually determined by the culture they walk into. Not every NFL locker room is created equal. Some are built to elevate, support, and sharpen talent, while others are chaotic, political, and toxic. The Cowboys have flirted with both identities over the past decade. But if this new vision under McCarthy and Schottenheimer is real, if this family first, compete everywhere mindset is more than just lip service, then Sanders has a real shot to bounce back. He has a chance to rewrite the narrative, and Dallas has a chance to prove that it's a place where a player's past doesn't define his future. But don't get it twisted, this isn't charity. Miles Sanders has to earn it. Nobody's handing him 20 touches a game just because he used to be a 1,000-yard rusher in Philly. That running back room is about to be the most hotly contested position group on the roster. You've got guys like Rico Dowdle fighting to prove they can take the next step. Deuce Vaughn looking for his breakout moment. And let's not forget about the rookie buzz. Whoever's turning heads in camp is going to get a shot. If Miles Sanders wants that role, he's going to have to do the work, show up every day, and prove that whatever happened in Carolina was an exception, not the rule. And to be fair, from what we've seen early in OTAs and minicamp, he seems locked in. Body language is good. His reps are crisp. He's moving with purpose. That's what you want to see. But the real test? That comes when adversity hits. When he gets only 5 carries in a game. When he gets rotated out for a rookie. That's when we'll know who Miles Sanders really is now. And more importantly, we'll know what kind of support system this coaching staff and locker room really provide. Ultimately, this whole situation is just another reminder that talent is only one part of the puzzle. Culture, coaching, timing, and leadership matter just as much, if not more. You could take the same player, drop him into two different organizations, and get completely different results. That's why I'm not rushing to judge Sanders off what went down in Carolina. That team was a mess from top to bottom. Now he's in Dallas, a team with expectations, accountability, and hopefully a structure that can bring out his best. And if this team really is who they say they are about brotherhood, about competition, about doing things the right way, then we're going to find out soon. Because Sanders' journey is more than just about yards and touchdowns. It's about how a player fits into a vision. It's about whether this team is building something that can take in a frustrated vet and turn him into a focused weapon. If that happens, it's a win-win. And if it doesn't, well, then maybe the Cowboys still have work to do before they can claim they've truly changed. Either way, this season's going to reveal a lot, and I'll be right here for every second of it.